Welcome to the Marketing Science Lab podcast. I'm Alex, and today we're diving into a fascinating study on bounded social media places, or BSMPs. It's all about how people are carving out private spaces within our favorite social platforms.
That's right. We're exploring research from the journal Social Media Society that's got some big implications for how we approach digital marketing. Ready to unpack it?
Absolutely. Let's start with the basics. What exactly are these BSMPs?
Great question. BSMPs are essentially low-visibility areas within social media platforms. Think private WhatsApp chats, closed Facebook groups, or invite-only Discord servers. They're spaces where users feel they have more control over who sees their content.
Interesting. So it's like creating a digital living room within the larger social media landscape?
That's a perfect analogy, and it seems more and more users are gravitating towards these cozy digital spaces. The study found that BSMPs share some key characteristics that make them appealing.
Let's break those down. What are the main traits of BSMPs that marketers should be aware of?
The research identified three main affordances, or actions made possible, by BSMPs. First, they discourage visibility. Users feel their content stays private due to platform settings and trust in their small audience.
That's a significant shift from the broadcast to everyone mentality we often associate with social media. How does this impact our approach to content strategy?
Well, it suggests we might need to rethink our focus on viral content and massive reach. Instead, we could explore ways to create more intimate, targeted content experiences. Maybe it's about quality of engagement over quantity of views.
Makes sense. What's the second key trait?
BSMPs encourage personalization. Users believe they receive more relevant content from specific audiences without algorithms interfering. It's fascinating. People associate chronological feeds with having more control over their experience.
That's a curveball for those of us relying heavily on algorithmic targeting. Do you think this means we should be pivoting away from data-driven personalization?
Not necessarily, but it might mean complementing our data-driven approaches with more community-focused strategies. Perhaps it's about facilitating connections between users with shared interests, rather than just pushing personalized content at them.
Gotcha. And the third trait?
BSMPs facilitate ongoing conversations. The lack of algorithmic sorting makes chats feel more continuous and synchronous. Users perceive these spaces as better for real-time, flowing discussions.
That opens up some interesting possibilities for real-time marketing and customer engagement. I'm thinking live question and answer sessions, instant feedback opportunities, maybe even co-creation opportunities with customers in these private spaces.
Exactly. It's all about fostering those genuine, in-the-moment connections. Now, let's talk about how this shift towards private social spaces might impact specific marketing strategies.
So I'm particularly intrigued by the implications for brand communities. It seems like private groups could be goldmines for fostering loyal customer bases.
Absolutely. The sense of privacy and exclusivity in BSMPs could encourage more open and honest discussions about products or services. Imagine a closed Facebook group for early adopters of a new tech gadget, sharing tips and feedback in real time.
That could be incredibly valuable for product development and customer insights. But how do we balance that desire for privacy with our need to gather data and measure ROI?
That's the million-dollar question. It might require a shift in how we measure success. Perhaps we focus more on engagement rates, sentiment analysis, and community growth metrics rather than just raw reach numbers.
Good point. We might need to get creative with our analytics approaches. What about influencer marketing? How does the rise of BSMPs impact that strategy?
It's fascinating to consider. The study suggests that micro-influencers might have highly engaged audiences in these private spaces that we can't easily measure. It could mean rethinking how we identify and partner with influencers.
So instead of just looking at public follower counts, we might need to consider an influencer's ability to drive meaningful conversations in private groups.
Exactly. It's about quality of influence rather than quantity of followers. This ties into another interesting aspect of the research, the role of trust in BSMPs.
Tell me more about that. How does trust factor in?
The study found that users generally trust their BSMP audiences not to share content outside the group. There's an implicit understanding of what happens in the group stays in the group.
That's a double-edged sword for marketers. On one hand, it could lead to more authentic engagement. On the other, it means we need to be incredibly careful about how we approach these spaces.
Absolutely. If we gain access to these private communities, we have to respect the norms and expectations. One misstep could seriously damage brand trust.
It sounds like a delicate balance. Any thoughts on how brands can navigate this successfully?
Transparency is key. If a brand is participating in a BSPM, they should be upfront about their presence and intentions. Maybe it's about taking a listening first approach, offering value to the community before asking for anything in return.
That makes sense. It's really about shifting from a broadcast mentality to a community building approach. Are there any specific types of brands or industries you think are particularly well suited to leverage BSMPs?
Great question. I can see this being especially powerful for brands in sensitive or personal niches. Think health and wellness products, financial services, or parenting-related goods. These are areas where people might prefer more private discussions.
Interesting. It could also be valuable for luxury or exclusive brands, playing to that sense of exclusivity and insider access.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about some actionable takeaways for our listeners. What are the key things marketers should start doing differently based on this research?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to start mapping out where our target audiences are engaging in these private spaces. Are they in closed Facebook groups, private Discord servers? Understanding the landscape is crucial.
Great point. I'd add that we should be looking at our existing social media strategies and considering how we can create more intimate, community-focused experiences. Maybe it's launching a members-only group for our most loyal customers or creating exclusive content for private channels.
Those are solid ideas. I think we also need to revisit our metrics and KPIs. If these private spaces are becoming more important, we might need new ways to measure success that go beyond public engagement numbers.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the importance of building trust. In these more intimate digital spaces, authenticity and transparency are more important than ever.
Great points all around. As we wrap up, any final thoughts on the future of social media marketing in light of this basement trend?
I think we're seeing a real shift towards quality over quantity in social media engagement. It's not about reaching the biggest audience anymore, but about fostering the most meaningful connections. Marketers who can master that balance of privacy, personalization, and community building will have a real edge in the coming years.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of the Marketing Science Lab podcast. Thanks for joining us as we explore the fascinating world of bounded social media places.
And remember, listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you seeing this trend play out in your own marketing efforts? Share your experiences in the comments or reach out to us on social media. Until next time, keep experimenting and stay curious.